Hello, friends, and thanks for joining us again. This is the 20th appearance of Tomei Schnitzius, my friend and buddy and counselor. And I am discussing topics of incredible relevance to you. We agreed yesterday when we completed our 19th session that today we're going to focus on the issue and the potential of what it means to serve humanity. And Tomei is bolstered by a very, very thick book by Alice Bailey with that very same title that
Yeah, well,
I know he's willing to.
there it is
Yeah,
right there.
there it
And
is.
there's the thickness of it. So it's by Alice Bailey. It's called, you can see it's a little worn here. It's very thick, and so here's the tiny print that's on each page too. So it could take you a little while to get through this book. Very dense.
Well, thank you for sharing that and for diving so deeply into her work.
Yeah,
I know it has had informed the work that you've been doing with people, and I know it's going to inform the session that we have today.
yeah.
So share with us kind of an opener, and let's go from here.
Yeah, what kind of comes to me right at the beginning of this is that um, the title "Serving Humanity." We've talked a lot about words and vibrations, and to be careful in our journey, especially our inner journey, of using definitions um, in our journey as opposed to feeling the words and feeling the vibrations and seeing serving as serving is kind of an action statement, right? I mean, it's kind of it's like you're acting in some way, it's like a verb. Um, in serving humanity and even the word humanity, what does humanity mean, really? I mean, we have a definition that we're given, and even in serving, we're given a definition there. You can, I'm serving dinner. So I'm going to walk around and put a plate of food in front of you, but I'm not serving you necessarily from my heart or from my knowledge or my wisdom or something in those ways. So serving has a lot of connotations to it, of course, and um, humanity to me does too. We can look at the historical aspects of humanity. Where did we come from, and how long have we been here, and how we evolved, and so on, and where are we at right now. And so there's this expanse of understanding and feeling of just those two words in general. Um, I'd like to look at more the spiritual aspect of this. Um, that spiritual aspect deals more with our journey inside. It deals more with uh, where we've come from, more of a soul type understanding. It deals with more of the vibrations and the frequencies and the energy that we're able to manifest and use. It deals more with the support that we have around us, kind of in a you could say in an angelic way. If you believe in angels, it can be done in an energetic way and of beings of some kind. We can think of it also as higher beings that are in other dimensions that are here will help serve us and so on. Um, so, in the spiritual sense, serving humanity um, can start at a certain place in our journey. And so, where I'd like to begin with this is that the first understanding or um, way of looking at serving has to be with serving ourselves. And most when they hear that, especially a lot of the religious modalities would say, well, that's being selfish. That you're here to give yourself away. You're here to be there for other people, and if you get something out of it, great. But if you don't, it's okay. That's not the way this works. Um, because if once again we've talked in nauseum about programming and life strategies and so on and so forth. And if you're coming from that place, and that you are not coming from the place of the heart, you're coming from the place of the mind, you're coming from the place of how they've told you you're supposed to be in this lifetime, how you're supposed to be in humanity, for instance, and how you're supposed to work in humanity and be a part of humanity in the way they wish you to be. I know in some of these podcasts, Bill is thrown in some of his understandings of education, and unfortunately in education, they put you into a box, and this is how you're supposed to be. And if you're going to become, go into the workplace in some way, you have to have some kind of career. You have to become something, and you're not allowed to become something else. You're only allowed to become whatever that is. So they keep you in that box. And so your ability to expand your wisdom and your knowledge in other areas is limited by your own choice of going there. But they really don't want you to go there because they want you to stay in one specific area so they can control you. All that being said, that's not serving you, it's serving them. And they're really happy if they can get you to serve them. And that's what's been going on in our politics. That's what's been going on in different countries, even in a worldwide global understanding. That's what's been going on. And maybe we'll address that at another time, but we're serving them. Unless you finally come to kind of a crossroads and start understanding what it is to serve yourself. What choices do I have to open my heart and open my way of looking at life from a different perspective, so I can find some balance, so I can find some happiness and joy that is authentic, that is a feeling and not a definition of what they tell you joy and authenticity is, but that you find it on your own. Because for each one of us and each one of our souls and each one of our hearts, this is a very intimate journey. Whatever you feel in your heart, whatever you feel in your authenticity, is personal and intimate unto you. And nobody can take that away from you. It's kind of like you own it. And it's not selfish. Actually, it's the opposite. It's being selfless, which means you allow yourself to become more of your inner heart so that you can serve others from that place. And it takes a lot of work. We've gone over that too. This is a lot of work's involved in clearing out all those things that you've covered that up with. So I'm not going to get into that today. Again, there's other podcasts where you can look at the titles and you can understand that we are talking about those sort of things. This podcast on serving humanity is a podcast that comes after all that work has been done. When you come to the place where you are at 51% in your heart space, you're now in a position to project that out. But up to that point, you're working towards it, which means you're working on yourself. You're working on the lower S self, the ego self, to dissolve it as best you can, to lose the attachments that you have created and manifested through ego programming and life strategy. Those attachments have stopped you in your tracks every time you made a choice that might have freed you. But once you understand that and you start working on that, it becomes a selfless act, because a selfless act is becoming humble and honoring yourself and having integrity and having a moral compass of serving yourself first and acting from that place, making choices from that place, feeling and experiencing life from that place more on a consistent basis than just every once in a while. When we come to that place, we can say that now we're in a selfless place within our heart, which means we've cleared a lot of that. Let's just call it. They call it. They call some of the DNA strands. Isn't it? They call it DNA junk or something like Bill. I think they.
Yeah,
We
they
have
think that about
junk DNA, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so maybe we have junk ego. we have we have we have junk programming that we've allowed to sit there and be dormant until, the ego can use it against us. But eventually we can kind of clear out all that junk and allow ourselves to be free and open to the things that are now around us that we can see. We couldn't see these things before because we were so covered up and blinded by the choices we had made up to that point that were consistently the same. We can't see what's in front of us. We can't feel what's in front of us. It's all there. It's always been there. It's just that we were always so blinded by the choices and what was going on around us is how we were supposed to project into the world by the definitions they gave us. As we chink away at that armor, if you want to call it armor too, we start realizing that we have other choices. And as we make those other choices, then we form more of a moral compass of how we can be more serving ourselves in a energetic feeling, an energetic sense that is of no judgment and no harm. I would say that harm comes after the judgment. But sometimes you're harming somebody and you don't realize you're doing it. And for sure, there's a lot of times you judge things and you don't know you're judging them until you finally start doing this work and you start realizing all the opinions you have on anything, for instance, and all the judgments that you've been making based upon what people told you, how you're supposed to look at things. Um, and so as we progress inward into ourselves, we start recognizing those judgments. We start recognizing the harm that we've caused over all these years. And it can be a very emotional type situation because there was no intent to harm. There really was no intent per se to judge, but it was so ingrained in us that that's what we did. And so we were not serving ourselves in any way. We were following what they told us to be. And they, as you could say, it's religion, you can say it's government, you can say it's education, you can say it's family, you can say friends, you can say how I'm supposed to even perform in any hobbies and habits that I might have, and so on and so on, so forth. It's like these how would I say, edicts or ways of being in the world were told to us, and because of that, we were supposed to see them in a certain way, which means we had to judge them in a certain way. We had to say they were bad or good. We had to say they were either bad or good for us. And if I'm German, then I'm not supposed to hang out with, any English people. Or if I'm, Russian, then oh my gosh, I got to go against the United States. These are all mind-driven brainwashing techniques to have you believe something they want you to believe, so you will act the way they want you to act. And so we're serving them. We're not serving ourselves. We're hoping we'll be accepted by them so that we can have some needs met that they might give us if we do follow their rules and regulations and so on. So this is a lot of work. And to serve others, to serve humanity, all that's got to be erased. It's all got to be erased because we're not serving humanity according to what they want us to do. We're supposed to be, and supposed to be is kind of an ego word, but what I'm going to say here, we're supposed to be serving through our heart, which means we're supposed to be directed by source. We're supposed to be directed by the higher energies coming through our system and through our heart space to help us make the choices that are filled with integrity and morals and kindness and love and compassion and ethics and put whatever words you want to it, empathy. All those things are found in the heart. The definitions of how they see it, of those very things, are not found in the heart. They are found in the mind, and pretty soon AI is going to give you what those definitions are supposed to be. So as Greg Braden has said so beautifully in some of his recent YouTubes, we have the capacity at this point to lose our humanity, to cease to be human, because we're going to give away our emotions and give away our very selves to AI instead. And I hope to God that doesn't happen, because quite frankly, our computer system within ourselves is way farther expansion than any computer AI situation that can be created. We have more capacity within ourselves. We can feel things in other dimensions that AI can't even come to because they can't feel. They have to be directed how to. So that's more of a definition again. It's more scientific. It's more pragmatic. When we get to the feeling of energy and consciousness around us, that's not pragmatic anymore. Even science will tell you they can't put words to what they know exists around us. They can't. They call it space or they call it consciousness of some kind. They're not going to call it God for God's sake, because that would kick them out of the physics lab. Um, but the point is that it's all definition. When it comes to deep feelings and emotions, that's where things are being cut off, and that's where we have our humanity. And through our humanity and emotions, we can create, manifest things. Um, and that's how we serve. We serve by being with others, feeling their energies, seeing what we can do and meet them where they're at. That's the next step. But before we get to that step, we have to do that for ourselves. So we have to meet ourselves where we're at. What does that look like? Well, just look in the mirror and talk to yourself and see what's going on. Have you taken chances today? Have you taken risk? Have you taken made different choices, for instance, today? Have you decided not to judge for the whole day and see if you could even try that and get away with it? Could you be humble all day long? Can you be empathetic all day long? Can you find ways to welcome in heartfelt emotions that you haven't experienced quite yet and actually do it all day? I challenge you, because most can't. They understand it. They say, well, that'd be a great day if I could just be in joy all day. Okay, well, go do it. Go find the joy in everything, everything. I don't care what happens. Go find the joy in it. And as soon as they walk out the door and the neighbor says, you know what? You shouldn't be parking over there. That's my spot. Okay, go find the joy in that. You walk outside and there's 3 feet of snow. Now you got to shovel before you leave the house and you're already late for work. Go find the joy in that. How many things?
Tomei,
Yeah. What?
Tomei, I already failed the joy test today when I couldn't get into my online banking account.
Well, there you
Okay,
go. Go find the
and
joy in technology.
they told me I was frozen out and they couldn't fix it. So
You're frozen out because we don't know who you are.
yeah. No, the problem is they do know who I am, and they can't fix it. So
Yeah,
anyway, I've already failed
yeah,
my joy challenge uh,
yes.
so far.
And so, and I guess I'm being a little bit too strong here, of course. But the point is that for us to be able to walk our walk in our journey in our hearts, we always have to allow the heart to direct us. We have to be in touch with what's going on inside here, not here. And we have to meet ourselves where we're at. I use this a lot in my workshops and in my classes to say to people, if you're going to assist another, you have to meet them where they're at. Well, what are you talking about? Meeting them where they're at, feeling their energies. They might not want you to fix something. They might want you to just hold their hand. They might want you to just listen. They don't need you to come up with some solution for them. Us guys are terrible at that. We're supposed to figure things out. If a woman comes up and says, this is what's going on, she's not looking for an answer. But we're men, so we got to find the answer so we can make sure they like us. And they're not looking for one. If they really are, they'll ask you for it. However, if they're not, be careful, because they just want you to hold their hand. And if you're not a feeling male, which a lot of us aren't, that could be an issue for you. So it's going to be hard for you to meet them where they're at. If you work on your program that says males don't cry, If you work on your programs and say males don't hug, males don't touch, males fill in the blank, if you don't work on that and open up your heart to experiences that are waiting for you to explore in the emotional arena, you're not going to be able to meet anybody in humanity where they're at. It's not going to happen. You'll have solutions for them. You'll have definitions for them. That's not what they're looking for, though. Can you just sit with somebody who just lost their partner in a car accident? They're not looking for you to fix it. In fact, how could you? You can't fix it. You can't turn it around and make it different than what it is. They're just looking for somebody just to hold them for a second, letting them spill out the emotions. Have you ever just walked up to somebody who just went through something really difficult within themselves, in their heart, and they just look at you and they wrap their arms around you and they start crying uncontrollably? And it feels really uncomfortable for you because you don't know what to do. You just sit there and you freeze kind of and you just let it. However, if you've done that before, if you've gone through something that's very emotional, you've opened up your heart, you've cried on the floor like a baby for hours, and they come up to you in that moment and they hold you and they start letting go, and you hold them tight and you know what it's like to have gone into that arena of emotion. And all you want is somebody just to hold you. So getting back to serving yourself, if you haven't had that experience, you might say, oh, I really don't need to go do that. Okay, then you're only going to be in a box of living this life. You're not going to have experienced all things. And for us to serve each other, we must do the best we can internally on our own intimate way to serve ourselves first. So if you can sit down with yourself and say, wow, here's a list of heartfelt emotions. Which ones have I not experienced so far in my life? Now, that could be a long list. It might take you a while. Or in some cases, maybe you have experienced most of them, but you haven't used them to project out to serve others. You kind of kept it to the vest, as they say. You kind of kept it inside. You didn't want anybody to see because you're a male or you're female. You're only supposed to emote in a certain way and all that kind of thing. That's also staying in a box and not meeting yourself where you're at. So there's this kind of understanding in the journey, especially in the book Serving Humanity by Alice Bailey. And this is through the Theosophical Society back in the 1800s, and brought forward many, many mystery school understandings. Just so many. It's crazy how much is in all her books. But the reason she has all these things listed, and it's very dense and very dry and hard to read, but the point is that there's many ways to serve ourselves. There's many understandings to be had, but we must bring them into our life. So that's kind of the next step. The first step is to make the realization that I really haven't served myself, that I really haven't met myself where I'm at. That's just a realization. That's kind of just an awareness that we come to. The next step after that is to start looking at the opportunities and the choices that we can start making to engulf ourselves in the inner journey and to start serving ourselves to explore and experience, especially a lot of the ego emotions that have been attached to us that really keep us, let's just say, stuck in our journey. And then to let those go, we have to feel them to be able to let them go. So I'm going to meet myself where I'm at by saying, here's what I created first. Here's all the ego emotions that I've put together to keep me stuck. And I must feel those so I can let them go first. Once that emptiness is there, I've let all that stuff go. Now I have the opportunity to fill it in now with heartfelt emotions. And those are usually emotions of the moment. and they're not attached to anything. They're just emotions of the moment. And so crying, I'll give you an example. Crying with the ego means you never stop. You just keep going and going. And the next time something happens that you get triggered by, you cry the same way again, and you cry the same way. And there's this attachment to always crying. Some have worked with me on that emotion of always crying and always something coming, always crying. And that's the way the ego keeps you captured in that one emotion constantly. So the heartfelt emotion is, it doesn't say you don't cry, but you only cry in the moment. You only cry experiencing what is. And as soon as that experience is over, crying's over and you move on to another choice. It's amazing how that happens. Once you recognize what's going on, and you do get emotional sometimes, even in the podcast, I'll get a little emotional when I'm speaking about something, but that emotion only is present while I'm speaking about that something. And as soon as I'm finished, I move right back into being present without that emotion. And that's how it works. You don't stop the emotion from coming, but you don't let it become attached to you so it drowns you out. So there's the difference between those two emotions. So serving yourself would be to finally release those emotions that you are attached to, which also has judgment involved in it, and then open yourself up now, because you've let them go, to new emotions to start experiencing, as not only within yourself and how you see things, but also as you interact with life itself. You might find, even in your job, in your marriage, or your relationships, or your dynamic family, and hobbies and habits, that they shift, they change. You see them differently than you did before. This is why, when people come to me and they say, well, you're telling me I have to give up my marriage, I have to quit my job to do this work. No, 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 no. You have to do any of that. You have to give up the attachment, is how you see them and how you do them and how you're with them, to open yourself up to seeing it differently. And once you see and feel it differently, does it serve you? But most importantly, as it's serving you, is it serving those around you? Is it causing harm instead by you staying in it? And you know the answer really quickly when you're in your heart. You can really tell. So sometimes, yeah, sometimes there is some tough decisions that have to be made, because I didn't realize I was enabling this person that was my partner to always put me down, that they were always right. And I'm like, well, they're always right. And that's okay. They can always be right. So I'm allowing them to be in their program. I do the work for myself and I serve myself. And I come out of it and I realize that I'm the one allowing them to treat me that way. And so I have to look at myself and say, how can I best share this with them so I don't harm them, but not allow this to continue? And in some cases, you can make a shift, and the other person will say, oh, I never realized that's the way I was. Thanks for pointing that out to me. Or they might say, oh, you're wrong and you're terrible, and you just keep going the same down the road, and you can't work with it anymore. So you do have to make a separation of some kind. So in the beginning, it's like, don't do anything until you find yourself and you serve yourself first, because it can shift and it can change and it can, let's say, improve. It can get better, better energies, better way of looking at things, and so on. So the first thing again was to make the realization of of that you can actually look at yourself, and I haven't met myself where I'm at. The second thing is to start doing the work of looking at the emotional body and seeing the emotions that you're attached to, seeing the emotions that you can now bring into your life, and start becoming intimately involved with those emotions yourself, and seeing how you can play them out and how they can feel and where they can be best used, and so on and so forth for yourself. Um, and as you're doing that, there's going to be releases within the physical body, because the physical body no longer is holding on to the old emotions, the stresses that they caused in your physical body. There could be healing that could take place. You could start feeling a lot better about yourself, the way you walk, the way you present yourself, and so on. So you're starting to see a shift in who you are. Others will start seeing a shift in who you are. And so as you start serving yourself in that capacity, And it's not instantaneous. So I'm not trying to say as soon as you do this work, you know, it only take a couple days and you'll be on your way. I wish that were the case because it's taken you who knows how many years to form the ego that you did, and now you're finally facing it. And so there's that number of years where you were doing this other way of living, um, caught in the strategy and the ego, and now you're being asked to let go of all that so that you can kind of resurrect into a different person. It takes some time to recognize that. It takes some time to let go of the triggers that are still there, um, and some of the ways of being that you didn't know you were doing. But it can happen if you stay with it. Sometimes it's great to have somebody to talk to that has done some of this work too, so they can assist you if so be it. Um, but as you go forward on this and you finally start serving yourself in a way that is bringing more, let's just say, balance and more joy into your life, a happiness that hasn't been there for a while, and being able to interact with the world and with your community and with your friends and with your spouse and so on, it changes everything. And now you're at a stage where there's a possibility, I'm just going to say a possibility at this point, a possibility of serving others. Because if you are at that place where you truly are at 51% serving yourself, now the heart is now the director. And what does that mean? So that's kind of the third step in this place is you have a heart space. And it's not the physical heart, but it's really close to the physical heart because it's right kind of in the middle of your chest. And it's a vortex, it's an energetic place for the heart. They even say in the physical heart, there's a place in the physical heart that has a kind of like it's like a dot, and they call it the sacred space of the heart. And they found from studies that if if a person is dying or the brain is dead and all the other organs stop functioning, the heart is still working. And they didn't understand how that could be. And so what they did was they opened up the heart and they found out there's what they call neurites in the heart. These are little neurons that are in the heart space. So the heart actually had its own brain, and which means it has its own way of seeing and thinking and so on. And so the heart would continue to pound even though the organs in the brain were not working. And so if they were to touch this place in the heart, this actually physical place, is one little spot, if they touched it, the heart would be non-existent. So they started calling it the sacred space of the heart. And the old mystery schools and modalities and some of the ancient cultures and so on knew about this sacred space. And so they knew it was there. But even through science, we found out that even if they touch it, it singles out the heart right away. So in this sacred space of the heart, once we live from there, it becomes our director. It actually has a brain, and it's sending signals to the rest of the body based upon the feelings and the emotions that we're having. The feelings and the emotions. So guys out there, if you're having a hard time feeling an emotion, it's time to get on the bus. It's time to start recognizing the truth and understanding that if you want to be whole, then it's time to bring that into your existence. It's already there. I'm not going to say you have to bring it from somewhere, but it's time to uncover and explore the feelings and the emotions that are waiting for you to explore. So once we do that, once we're in a place where we've met ourselves where we're at, we've explored the emotions that we have been attached to, and now the emotions that are starting to come in for us to experience and explore, and we get to that 51%, now the heart's in charge. Now the intuitive guide is in charge. The intuitive guide, when it's in charge, is a feeling. It's a sensing. It's not a thought. The thought comes later. There's kind of a gut feeling about something, and you've all had that. And once that gut feeling happens, The ego comes in and says, no, 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 no. If you do that, then this is going to happen. If you do that, then that's going to happen, and so on and so forth. If you stay with the gut, I just had this happen yesterday with some. We were working on a meditation, and we were doing a healing, actually healing, and Bill knows all about this healing. Doing healing, and I asked them what, as they were breathing into their body and having their body tell them what part of their body is calling out to them right now. They said it, and they said, okay, can you feel, can you intuit a color? And they did. And then all of a sudden the ego comes and, well, no, I think it may be silver now, or no, it might be dark, dark, dark blue. Or so the ego came in to try and stop the whole process, because there is no silver in chakras. That was the biggest indication right there. It's like, oh, I know who's here. And so we talked about it later, and they got it. They understood, the feeling what happened, and how the ego is trying to get involved, and stop the whole process from happening. So there's this intuitive feeling and sensation that comes to us when we are at 51% or more in the heart, in that heart space. And it's really instantaneous. It happens automatically. And as we do that more and more, and we listen to it, it's an internal listening, and we get the idea of the difference, or the feeling of the difference between the ego coming in and interrupting, and the heart and giving us the intuitive guide, the feeling of that. We start making those choices more and more. We're allowing our heart space to expand. We're allowing it to grow. We're allowing ourselves to trust and understand what we have as a guide, not like somebody else, but how it's our intimate feeling of our own heart space on how it guides us. And that makes it really, really special for each person. And that's your direct connection to source, to universe, to consciousness. However you want to look at it, it doesn't really matter. It's that connection. They call it the anakarana cord. That's there, that goes up to the universe. You can look at it too as a prana tube that goes up through the middle of you. You can get energy and information from that too, and from tubes around you. And maybe one day we'll go into that too, huh, Bill? There's something we haven't touched on yet. We always come up with another subject while we're doing these things. It's kind of amazing. We last podcast, you're like, well, what are you going to talk about now? Well, I don't know. And all of a sudden, boom, here comes one out of nowhere. And it was serving humanity. So here we are. So we have that opportunity for us within ourselves to be guided by this incredibly intimate place within us. And as we keep doing that more and more, we're able to meet ourselves where we're at more and more. And so we're serving ourselves more and more. And we are starting to get this sense of feeling energies and energies around us. And our guide, our heart, is telling us what it's exploring, what it's feeling around us. We even start getting kind of psychic hits and feelings from other people. Like you could go to a party and say, I really don't want to be that by that individual over there, because the energy coming from that area doesn't feel really balanced to me. I'd rather be over here with somebody who's a little bit more quiet. And that's not a judgment. It's just that that's what you're being drawn to. And so you're being drawn because of the feeling that you're having inside, and that intuitive guide is asking you to move over in that direction. And so these kind of things start happening more and more as we go a little deeper into our service to ourselves, and our ability to expand the experiences that we're having with the energies and the vibrations, the frequencies that are all around us. As we grow in that and we become more comfortable with that voice, and we trust that voice, more synchronicities start happening. More things happen that you wouldn't have seen before, because now you're more open to it. That's a whole new level of trust. Even if you're challenged with something, for instance, And when I say challenge, a lot of times the challenges we have after our heart opens in such a way, they can be a little bit more intense than our normal day challenges that we're used to. And in those challenges, the heart's directing you. And if you trust enough in that direction, then the outcome will be what it's going to be, and you'll see it very clearly. And in some ways, the mystery schools and some other teachers that you might have been with, or people that were supporting you in some way, would say this is surrendering to what's going on so that you can allow yourself to be present with what's going on. You're not giving away your energy of it per se, but you're surrendering to it so you can see and feel the clarity of what choices to be made for the best of all. That's another concept that I want to get to, the best for all. As I continue to do the work inside myself, I'm not quite yet serving the best for all. Although some masters would say, yes, you are, because by serving yourself in the best way you can, you're doing it also for those around you. And there's a lot of truth to that. And like I said, I'll get into some of that later, but there's a lot of truth to that. The first step, though, is to really take some time in our journey and be with ourselves and take some silence and some times to be present just with yourself. To walk in nature is always the greatest opportunity to do some of that work, is to be by a stream or a creek, be by a lake, be at the top of a mountain, be in a valley. There's so many different places you can go to just kind of be alone, but you're not alone. You're just experiencing the things that are going on all around you. And this helps you go inward. This helps you go into your heart more and be able to feel things. As I'm talking right now, I'm not aware at all of anything going on around me. As soon as I stop, I can hear the traffic outside now. I can see the light coming through the window. I can see Bill's in the other screen. Um, as I continue to talk, though, all of a sudden I'm cutting off a sense of awareness of what's going on around me. So each one of us, I'm going to say, to be able to go deeper into our hearts, we have to take time to be alone and to be able to just sense and feel the things around us and start recognizing that there's so much more to consciousness than just what's right in front of us. And you would do that a lot in the mystery schools. There would be a lot of time to be doing those things. You'd be going into a dark cave and just staying in the darkness and just sensing and feeling that darkness. And notice how your eyes, as you know, would get accustomed to the darkness, and all of a sudden you'd start seeing things because your eyes have now got used to the darkness. And then you'd also come out and go stand by a lake and sit down and just be on a log and just be there and be quiet and just breathe and start noticing the different sounds of nature that you didn't hear in the cave. So all these things are available to us if we take the time to just slow down a little bit and go within and meet ourselves where we're at and understand that's how we serve ourselves. So we've kind of gotten to the point now where we're coming out. Let's say we're kind of blossoming out of our heart space finally and starting to recognize that there is another voice. There's an internal intuitive voice that we all have that wishes to speak to us, to help us grow, to help us become more of the master that we are inside, to help us regain the feeling and connection to that spark that we hold within our heart space. And so I'm just going to take a little bit of a break right now because I'm going to go on from here and talk about where we go from there. But I thought I'd take a break now, and if there's any questions, Bill, or any thoughts you might have before I carry on.
Well, I don't mean this in jest, but I've been sitting here formulating a grand theory of everything that you've been sharing and trying to tie it back to some of the what I think are really significant podcasts that we've already done.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'd like to throw this possibility out
okay,
that that sacred space of the heart and I think we may have even discussed this, but that sacred space of the heart literally is the 0 point of how we function. That is at the essence of who we are as a multi-dimensional being with a capital S self. All right.
Mhm.
Is this heart being? And the reason that Greg Braden is saying, well, AI is going to take over, blah, 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 and take away our humanity, is that we are giving attention to simply the cognitive aspects of
Correct.
ourselves. Okay.
Right.
And increasingly, our lives as a collective are overwhelmingly about the technical, the specific, the cognitive, the
Mhm.
informational, etc. And that's what AI can do remarkably well.
Mhm.
Okay. But what you're speaking to is the interdimensional side of what makes us human,
Mhm.
i.e., and it's not only the emotional, it is the spiritual, etheric side of who we are.
Mhm.
Now, if all of that is sort of true, and this sacred space of the heart is for me the place we really need to get identified with and connected with to recognize who we really are. Part of who we really are is this energy torus that is functioning where we are pulling in energy and we are creating and we are transmitting energy. And the higher the vibration of that energy can be, the more we are contributing. So here's the word I want to go to: contributing high energy to the field, to humanity, to the existence of everything.
And that's where we're going next.
Okay, well, so I'm ahead of the parade.
Just a little bit.
This,
It's okay.
this is the.
It's a good
Oh
in,
my,
it's a good
for,
introduction to where we're going next.
okay. For the first time in my career, I, I'm ahead of the parade.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
sorry. All right.
yeah. No,
That's
it's okay.
so
It's all right.
where, okay, so we've now introduced the next segment, part
Yeah.
two of this
Well,
show.
not part two, but in
Yeah.
this podcast where we're going to go next. Um, so as we start serving ourselves, as Bill would say, um, we first are um, connecting with. I don't want to say identify because then now we're talking mind again. We're connecting with and feeling a place within us that has been there a whole time. Only we were so consumed with definition and how to please everything outside of us and be a part of the world so that we could be accepted and all this kind of stuff that we were totally using our head, using our brain, using our egos and life strategy. And all of a sudden we're shifting from here. As I say, the longest journey that anybody's going to make is from here to here. And so now we're saying, okay, we're going to shift from here. We're not saying we're not going to use it. We're just saying we're not going to allow this to be the director. That's all we're doing. We're going to
That's
use the
right.
brain. We're going to use the mind because it's a beautiful, beautiful tool to use in our growth and in our ability to become the spiritual essences that we really are. But we have to shift into our heart space because that's where the connection lies. And as we shift into that heart space and we become more adept at allowing ourselves to intuitively be guided by that, we start forming an energetic bubble around ourselves. And as Bill was explaining, it kind of looks like a torus field. It looks like somewhat like a donut. If you look at the hole in the middle and you look at the edges of the donut, it kind of looks that way where the energy usually is coming down through the top and then coming out the bottom and then coming back around and going back and going like this. But it's not just two-dimensional. It's like a ball. It's all around you. And so there's all this energy coming in all the time. It's going through your heart space to experience and then coming out into the earth, which then plants the seeds of the energy into the earth or to anywhere you go. You could be in space, I guess, and that's where you're planting it. But this energetic bubble doesn't just um, it's not just created in a limited capacity. And what I mean by that is that it reaches out into the universe. They say the center point in our heart, the sacred space of the heart, that heart math is measured. As far as they can tell, this energetic torus goes out about 35 meters. But the only reason they say it only goes out 35 meters is because that's the only equipment they have to measure it to that point. They say it goes beyond that. They really believe it goes out into consciousness, it goes out into the universe. So when you start developing the heart space, you start opening it up, you start allowing these energies to come in, you start trusting, you start living from a place of a moral aspect, of an empathetic place of compassion and gratitude. Gratitude is incredible energy of emotion to feel, and not by definition, but truly by feeling it, in one of integrity and so on. You start expanding this heart space. And at first, it might feel a little heavy, and it might even hurt a little bit. Sometimes people say, "Wow, that I can feel it now," but oh, it's like it's been sitting there for so long dormant. It needed to be moved. And if you go too fast, for instance, maybe it just kind of hurts a little bit more than normal. But the point is when you open it up, there's this kind of freedom that seems to start happening, and it's almost like you can't get enough of it. So there's meditations for this, of course, and I don't really use the word meditation so much anymore. I just say breath. There's breath techniques to assist us and to expand these different areas in our bodies to allow some energies to come in and then some energies to leave that have been there for a long time, any stresses and so on, any emotions that have clung to any of the cellular structure, for instance, in your body, or um, any muscles or any organs or such that there's stuff hanging there that needs to be let go of finally. There's these breathing techniques that we can do that can assist to do it, and they're very simple. They're not like, oh, you have to sit a certain way and you got to think a certain way and you got to look a certain way and you got to be facing north or south or east, or forget it. You can do it right in the moment you're here. Just closing your eyes, taking a few deep breaths, and putting your hand on your heart space. Right there, you're connected. That's how fast. Boom, you're in there. And so to expand that again means you must be with it more. So how can I be with it more when I'm in the middle of a volleyball game? How can I be with it more when I got a shark swimming after me in the ocean? How can, how can I find joy in that moment? It might be a little bit tough. Um, so when we kind of busy ourselves with things, it's a little bit more difficult. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but you can see what I'm saying. It's like you have to bring some presence into the moment for us to connect in such a way. And it's a gift that we're giving ourselves when we do. So when we continue to open that gift, let's say, um, it begins to expand so that torus field and that energetic bubble, you don't have to necessarily look at it as a torus field. You can just say, I got this huge bubble around me. We've done that in workshops before where we just see this huge sphere around us and we fill it up with the energy that we have coming in from our heart space and just let it go into the bubble and just keep expanding. And then we try and see if we can feel the person next to us's bubble as ours is expanding. So now we're connecting two bubbles at the same time. And what does that feel like as compared to the other? And we've done healing ceremonies two at a time where people are laying next to each other and we have people around them. And there's people in one healing feeling something from the other healing. And the two people that are healing themselves are feeling each other. It's an amazing opportunity to feel and to sense and to enjoy, um, as we go through these opportunities to go deeper inside and deeper into our hearts. The more we do that, the more we expand that bubble, the more we fill up that torus field, or the sphere that we're talking about, or so on, gives us more of an opportunity. I'm not saying you have to, but it gives us more of an opportunity to serve others. And what heart math would say is the first coherence you have is internal coherence with yourself. The coherence that you're making between your heart space and your mind and your brain. That's a heart brain coherence that they call, and that's the first coherence. The second coherence is personal coherence. So you now are at a place where you can feel and sense yourself, and because you've done enough work on yourself, you've expanded yourself in such a way that you're starting to feel other people's energies. You're not necessarily judging that. You're not trying to change them. You're not trying to force anything to them, any energies or anything. You're just opening yourself up to that connection. And as you do, if you do it from a pure intent place, which means you're not looking to judge or harm. If you're coming from your heart, you wouldn't anyway, but I'm just saying in a pure intent way, you can start sensing and feeling, who is this person really? Because they're not their physical body anymore. What's it like to be them? You know, they say, walk in my shoes and then you'll know why I do what I do. Well, you might say this is walking in your shoes, but you're walking in their energy, is what you're walking in. And you start recognizing, like, oh, this is the why they make the choices they make at work. I never looked at it that way, but you have a sense, you know, an internal sense that that's what's going on. So we go from a intimate coherence of heart and brain and mind to a person or coherence with another person. And then from there, we actually go to a community kind of coherence where we start walking in our community from this place that we've created within ourselves, from our heart space. And we start recognizing people in different ways. You might go to, say, a rec center, and now that you walk in every day, instead of just walking in and going right and putting your, you know, having to see your pass, and you go down in the locker and you don't say anything. Now you're going in with a smile on your face and, hey, how you guys doing? Having a good day? Oh, you're not so much. Oh, that's okay. Though it's really nice outside. Maybe go out and get some air or whatever. You're at a different, you're projecting a different energy than you were before, where you were really closed down before, and now you're really open. And I'm not going to say that that's going to happen all the time. I'm just suggesting that the more I work on myself, there's more of an opportunity for that to happen. And as I do that, I'm placing that energy everywhere I'm going. So it becomes a community coherence where even if I go out to dinner, if I go to a library, go to the grocery store, go skiing, which we do here, run into people on the paths and so on, it doesn't matter. You're in that kind of coherence where you're welcoming what's out there as opposed to judging things that are out there. Ego judges, heart welcomes. Ego wants to judge it and keep it the way it's supposed to be according to the definition of the life strategy. Heart's like, I really don't care about any of that. I just want to experience what's in front of me. No harm, no judgment. So that's more of a community type coherence. And then the larger coherence, of course, is global. And then we start shifting into kind of a global coherence where we're maybe feeling the earth, we're feeling the world. We get sad by situations that we have when we try to send some kind of support energetically to certain areas of the world, to certain people. We see accidents, we see floods, we see hurricanes, we see weather all over, we see all kinds of things. And most of it's all negative on the news, but we can take that negativity and use it as a way of shifting what we're feeling inside and sending out a message to serve those people in their catastrophes or what they're having to walk through at the time. It also gives us a humility within ourselves and the gratitude of what we have in our own lives. So we can shift that energy into a sense of gratitude for who I am and what I have and what I enjoy through my heart space. So those are the different kinds of coherences that can happen once I develop the heart space to a certain place. And again, that takes work. It takes time to be able to get to that place where you can feel and sense even others across the ocean, for instance. Um, but it's possible for sure. And after that kind of world coherence and earth coherence, now we can take it into a dimensional coherence. So that sounds like, whoa, what's he talking about there? Well, um, we've had some podcasts about my guides and beings and so on, that everybody has this opportunity to tap in to whatever energies are here all around us to serve us. They're not here to tell us what to do. They're just here to assist us in our own journey. And if my heart is closed down, I'm not going to be able to see or feel. It's not going to happen. Um, I'm going to be stuck in my own box. This is the way I'm going to do things. So what choices I'm going to make, and so on. We've talked about this already. But when I open myself up in such a way as we've been talking now in this kind of second half of the podcast today, um, there's another opportunity presents itself. And Bill, you can tell me how much time are we at right now? Because we can save some of this for part two too.
We are at a very appropriate closing time, and we could open then this for a part two. Okay.
Okay,
So
okay,
let's,
that's what I was
yeah,
wondering.
so if there's closure, let's
Yeah,
do an appropriate closure.
yeah. Okay, so once we get to that place, it's an interesting place to be, because there's a lot of joy in connecting with others energetically. We find a lot of comfort in being with people, not necessarily people that we like or don't like, but people that are open. And we can feel their openness from their heart. And as I travel around the world, this is what I'm finding. I've never traveled before. The most I traveled was to races that I would do in the United States for the most part. And that was fine. That was some traveling. But as I expanded, and my partner has really helped me in this to go to other places in the world, I'm able to open myself up to different people, different ways of culture, different ways of looking at things, and so on. And I'm finding that even though most people have a kind of a belief system and so on, their hearts are really beautiful. They're really open and warm and comforting and open to dialogue and so on. And of course, the news media and a lot of the government officials will say, well, that's not true. Well, you know what? It's more true than you would ever believe. And so this is the possibilities at this point. You can end your inward journey at this point, and that would be fine. But there's more to enjoy after this. And so in part two, we're going to kind of go off into more of a spiritual realm, if you will, of what that might look like and how that might assist you in your growth in serving humanity. And I say humanity is what's on the planet here. I'm not looking at humanity on a universal way. I'm looking at more as what's on this planet here, and to be able to serve them not only at the point you're at as far as we've talked right now, but then to understand there's more. There's more ways to connect with others through your heart space to assist others as well. And so we'll get into that in part two. Um, and so with that, I want to thank all of you for listening again. And it's been a lot. I know we've thrown a lot at you today. Um, but this is part one is serving humanity, and hopefully it's very helpful for you. Bill?
Thank you profoundly once again. And I look forward to resuming this with a part two that I think might include some of what we suggested a little while ago, and that is sort of what is the best for all?
Yes,
And how does that absolutely unfold as an aspect of this, taking this to a higher dimension?
yes.
So, audience, thank you. Please join us right away. If you have the time, if not, be sure that you connect the two segments together in terms of their meaning and implications and message and essence. And thank you for your time this time. See you soon.
See you
Bye
guys.
bye.
Bye.